Hello fellow book nerds, this is Gabby and today I'm gonna bring you some book reviews. So this year I'm tracking my reading through a spreadsheet on Google Sheets, and I felt like the beginning of the year I was really happy with how my reading was going in terms of diversity of authors, genres, ages, all that kind of thing. I was like, I'm nailing it, I'm doing so well, I'm not even trying, proud of myself for no reason. But I feel like as the year went on, I started just reading more and more only white authors, and I was really confused because I keep buying diverse books, so why am I not reading them? So I decided to pick up some of those books that I read, like bought a while ago, and make a video review about them and maybe share some recommendations with you. If it sounds good to you, maybe you can pick them up as well. And these are recent releases in terms of they were released in 2019, so less than a year ago. So I hope you get some recommendations out of this, but let's just get into it. The first book we have is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faizal. So the author of this book is of Sri Lankan descent, and the book is Middle Eastern culture inspired. It tells a story of a young woman who has had to pretend to be a boy most of her life so she could go out and hunt for her village, and she's been known as a very revered hunter, and one day she gets enlisted to help the ruler of the country to bring magic back to the world. I read this book as an audiobook, and I feel like that was a bit of a mistake. I had really time focusing because the writing was absolutely beautiful, very descriptive and very flowery, but at the same time that made it quite hard to listen to. I think flower writing takes a while to get used to, and it takes a second for your brain to really focus, and I can do that okay when I'm reading it physically because my brain knows this is what we're doing right now. But when I'm listening, especially now that I'm not really listening to audiobooks while I'm walking, but I'm mostly doing it while doing chores or cooking or that kind of thing, it's really hard for me to focus on just this one thing. So I feel like listening to it really made me disengage with the story and disengage with the characters. Moreover, I feel like the characters were a little bit underdeveloped. Maybe not the two main characters, but the rest of the characters that were on this road trip. I don't want to call it a road trip, but it's that kind of feeling, and I feel like normally these kinds of books can make it really nice for the characters to get to know each other and develop, but for some reason I felt like one of the four characters just basically don't understand the purpose of them. Another thing, this book has an insta-love, and that kind of bothered me because normally I can be okay with insta-love if it's been a short period of time, but the characters had really got to know each other and really developed a relationship. But in this case it was a short period of time, and they barely even had a conversation before they were thinking they love each other. And for me, not having a conversation, not having that deeper connection just makes it impossible for me to believe in their love. So I think that was a bit of a misstep there on the author's part. The author really should have made the characters' interactions more crisp and clear and really show us why they're falling in love instead of just staring at each other from afar but somehow falling in love, which escaped me. Lastly, I didn't really enjoy the ending of the book. I feel like there were too many surprise reveals. I am all for a surprise, like identity reveal or plot twist. I really love those, but we got like 4 consecutively just in the last couple chapters of the book, and it started feeling ridiculous after a while. I was like, okay, is this like, this feels a little bit like a joke. So I feel like that really also took me out from the story because I was like rolling my eyes a little bit because it was getting a little bit ridiculous. So personally, I didn't fall in love with the story, but at the same time I recognize how beautiful the writing is, and the story itself was quite engaging. So I think that if I didn't listen to it on audiobook, I could have connected a little bit more, but unfortunately it didn't really do it for me, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So next up, I read Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron. Author of this book is African American, and it is African mythology inspired book. Ara, the main character, has been born into a family of witch doctors, and she really yearns for magic of her own. However, in this world, if you don't get your magic by the age 18, it is quite unlikely that the gods will bestow you with this gift. However, there is another way to get magic, and that is by trading your years for it. Ara feels like that's something she needs to do to help her country and her family to get out of a really sticky situation. It took really long time to actually get to the end of the synopsis. I really don't like it when a book takes a very long time to get to the starting point. the kick-off, let's call it. And I think that it's either a mistake of the people who market it to put it in the synopsis, or it's just the story could be a bit quicker, because it was only around the page 120 that we actually got to the end of the synopsis and actually kicked off the actual plot, and I just was a bit bored waiting for the thing to happen. So I feel like that's a really big trap with putting too much in your synopsis, or just making your beginning too long. People just keep waiting for the thing to happen because we know it's gonna happen. So that was a bit disappointing and made for a really slow start. But that being said, the world building in this is beautiful. There's so many descriptions. The writing is quite nice. I feel like the writing is simple, but then at times it really hits you with a beautiful quote. And the descriptions of nature and the descriptions of character, just beautiful. It's really nice to see black characters described in such a rich and beautiful way, with so many different ways to describe it, instead of just saying ebony whatever. And the world's incredibly complex with many different tribes, and they even talk about nations beyond their tribes and beyond their kingdom, which I thought really expanded the world and really made me feel like there was so much more to this world than just this little story, which was really cool, and I really enjoyed that. And I really liked the main character. I thought she was really reasonable, really well written. There's a lot of characters that were well written, I thought I understood and I liked, but for some reason, despite so many things I enjoyed about this book, it just really didn't deliver on tension building. For some reason, that was the big thing that I noticed with this book. There was so many moments that I knew it was supposed to be big and I was supposed to be taken aback and really shook, but it just didn't happen. For some reason, every time something got introduced, it got resolved 2 pages later, or I knew that this was supposed to be a big moment and we've been building to it, but really we haven't been building too much. So the tension just wasn't there. For that reason, I wasn't feeling the anxiety you feel, or like the real butterflies that you're supposed to feel when you're reading. I was just like, yeah, alright. And it just felt a little bit long for that reason, because I wasn't invested in it so much. Maybe it was just me that didn't feel the tension, or maybe you don't care that much and you just want to meet a new cool world with new characters and lore. Then I think that's really good, really well written book, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars as well. Next up we have Daughters of Henry by Rani K. Amayo. So I bought this book because it's gorgeous, but it's so much more than just gorgeous. The author of it is Nigerian, but she was brought up in UK, and the story is again inspired by Nigerian culture. And even when you look at the actual map, it's located near where modern day Nigeria would be. So this book tells the story of a world where gods have abandoned the earth, and the only remnants of them are locked in twins. So the twins are quite prosecuted and supposed to be murdered as soon as they're born, but the 2 main characters get away and they are separated at birth and raised separately. They both have a little bit of God in them. What I really enjoyed was the characters. I think that the main 2 characters are really well written. It was a dual POV story, which I have been having troubles with lately, because I feel like sometimes authors put dual or multiple POVs there just to fill out the story and make it a bit easier on themselves. But we can clearly see who's the main character, we can clearly see who matters more. But what's this book done really well is that the both POVs are equally important and they're equally interesting, which is even more important. I wasn't waiting around to get to a certain POV, I was engaged in both of them. I think that was because the characters were so well written and the voices were distinct enough for me to enjoy both of them and not just think around, oh, where are we gonna go to this character that I prefer more. There's a little romance going on in there, which is just so angsty, and I loved it so much. It's not a big part of the story, but it got me swooning and I love it, and I want the book just about them. But at the same time, I feel like the small amount we got is what made it so enticing, so really good. I feel like there's a potential for this to have a gay relationship in the next one, so I am looking forward to that. I really hope they go there, because it could be good. It could be really good. One thing I did not enjoy and I thought was disappointing was the ending. It was so anticlimactic and so easy and so short. I was so disappointed. The ending of this book was like how I write my uni essays. when I get to the conclusion. I'm so done with everything that I'm like, so this is over now, the end, bye. That's what it felt like. It felt like the author had a really well structured and thought out story, and then the ending, they were like, and it ended. Yeah, I was not impressed with the ending. I think really could use some work. I really hope they improve on these action scenes in the next one as well, because I feel like there was so little action scenes, and even the action scenes were kind of like fade to black, which is weird. It was mainly just sitting around and standing around. So what I wanted to tell you is read this book. Read it. It's so good. I know I just said that the ending wasn't good, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's so cute and well written and so interesting, and the lore is just amazing. The world building is really good as well. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit confused at times, and they could explain it a little bit more, but I feel like that was done on purpose. So there you go. And there's no news about the second book, but there's supposed to be one. It says so at the end, and Goodreads doesn't know anything. Goodreads didn't even have the proper page count, which I was quite upset about. Another thing is, this book is like a floppy paperback. It didn't break the spine at all, if you can see that. The spine is untouched, people. But yes, petition for everyone to read this, so they definitely make the second book. Please read it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really well written. Enjoyed it. And the last book on this list is Patron Saints of Nothing by Randy Ribay. And the last book on this list is one I actually finished just like a couple hours ago. I was not expecting it. I read it in 2 days. I gave myself like 5 days. I can read it a little bit here, a little bit there. No, I started it yesterday and I fell in love, and I just had to keep going. I had to know what was going to happen. And that's Patron Saints of Nothing by Randy Ribay. So this book is written by a Filipino author who grew up in America, and it is the only contemporary on the list, so the rest are obviously fantasies, but this is a contemporary, and it tells the story of Jason, who is half Filipino, half American teenage boy. He lives in America, but one day he finds out that his cousin that he was quite close to when they were kids back in Philippines has died. And the circumstances of her death is something that his family doesn't want to talk about. They're keeping it very hush. He wants to find out what really happened, so he goes back to Philippines to find out. It's such a good book. It's just really good. I've been feeling really mad about contemporaries, but when I read contemporaries like these, it really reminds me why the genre can be just so amazing. This is not based on any real events, but I assume that it's mirroring the author a little bit, since he's also been born in Philippines, and then he moved to America when he was a child and grew up there. And there's just so many important themes in this book. Firstly, it talks about Philippines and the Rodrigo Duterte, who's now the president of Philippines at present, and his policies, especially policies on drugs and the drug war that is happening right now in Philippines. And it's really gruesome and awful what's happening, and I feel like not a lot of people know this. And even the main character, being half Filipino, he didn't know it about it growing up in America. And I definitely got educated on a lot of things. There's a lot of things I didn't know about Philippines, because we also don't get taught this in school, or we don't see it on mainstream media. Big part of this book is Philippines, the laws, the people there, the life there. And it's just such a big theme, and I feel like I learned a lot, and it was really amazing. And I feel like that was one of the main points of the book, trying to educate people on this issue that probably most non-Filipino people don't even know about. It's done it flawlessly. There's even like reading materials at the end of the book that I definitely want to check out. The first time I found out about this book was actually from a fellow booktuber who is Filipino, and she really enjoyed it, so I assume it's quite accurate in terms of its portrayal of fact. Another big theme is family, and how hard it can be sometimes to get along with family, to really understand each other, to communicate, especially in cultures where open communication isn't as prevalent, or where saving the face or the respect of the family is more important than open communication. So there's a reason why Jason's family doesn't even want to mention his cousin, and it's to do with how he died. That's a really powerful theme as well. Jason gets to know family that he hasn't seen in 80 years, and now he's seeing them through eyes of an adult, and it's really different than when he was a kid. There's honestly so many other things like journalism, how we see poor people as less than us, or how we see them as other, how we do nothing in the face of injustice, how easy it is to just turn a blind eye. It's amazing. The journey the main character goes on as well is just so beautiful, and you really get to see him go from this apathetic teenager to someone grown, and the book takes place over like maybe 2 weeks. Is really short period of time, but you really get to know the main character and see him grow and experience this country that he has very tenuous connection to. And I thought that was really beautiful. I know some people that also have mixed heritage, and they're also grown up from their country from the country that their parents grew up in, and I know that this is quite accurate, and the feelings here are really accurate. Again, really beautiful book. I would highly recommend it. One thing was that it has really flowery writing, especially the first page. It was so hard to get what the author was even trying to say, but somehow as I went on, either the book got less flowery or I got more used to it, so I could get through it way easier. But the first page, I was like, I need to read this 3 times to even understand what's being said, because I have no clue. If you pick up any book from this review, I would say it should be Patron Saints of Nothing. It's such an important book, and I really want it to be talked more about. I gave it 5 out of 5. Please read it. I am really glad I picked these books up, that even though not all of them became my new favorites, some of them definitely did. I mean, if you don't feel my love for Patron Saints of Nothing, I don't know what to tell you. If any of them sounded good, let me know in the comments, and let me know if you read any of these. I really want to know. But I think it's so amazing to sometimes go into a whole new world that's not what we always are used to, and just experience something new. So tell me some of the recent releases by POC authors that you read. I am highly interested and I really want to know. But that's it from me. I really hope you had a good day, guys, and I'm gonna see you in my next video. Bye!